Oke, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Uh, Good afternoon, everyone. How are you today? For our third meeting, it will be replaced with this course on topics and scopes of psychology, and we will discuss about what are the main topics or research and also the body of knowledge of psychology that we will learn as we progress in our process of learning for you to be a Bachelor of Psychology. Okay, now let us begin with the first introduction. So, as you may notice in our last meeting, I introduced you to many kind of psychology out there, like neuropsychology, social psychology, health psychology, etc. And this is the reason why, because psychology as a science, especially in social science, has wide and varied topics and scopes. When we are talking about an process inside our brain, in our mind, we often have many questions that raise, like, does sleeping less than 7 hours a day reduce how long you will live? Or maybe for some students the who likes to play video games, some people might say that, oh, playing video games means that you are a very aggressive person. So the more time you spend to play video games means that you be more aggressive. Now, is it true or it's not? And another question like, can you make a better decision by not deliberating about them? Or can women judge men testosterone level in just one glance? Or do IQ score predict how long people will live? Etc. 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 And to answer that question, we need some kind of approach and a detailed approach to explain how does someone behave that specific behavior. Because if we just observing, it's not just enough. Many times, coincidence become the source of our judgment. We judge people because, oh, this guy is aggressive and he plays video games. That's why video games makes other people aggressive. Or another examples like, does vaccine cause autism? Because my neighbor, he has autism and he just get vaccinated. Okay. People likes to links one event to another. So coincidence is known to be the great source of scientific discoveries and absurd conspiracy theories. We can judge by, okay, linking one event to another, and maybe that became the cause of that event, or we can use our knowledge in scientific method to answer that question properly and determine what caused what. Okay. So in this course, I will explain to you eight major topics or scope in psychology. When we talking about psychology, we can expect it to be separated with brain, as our executive function are mainly operates in brain. So the first one, I will talk about the behavior and brain, how it both related. And second one is learning. Um, Observing someone behavior, we sometimes we ask ourselves like, how does this guy choose to do something? Like how one guy might develop smoking while his brother don't, or why does some people pursue higher degree of education while the other choose to don't. The main reason is that there is a process called learning, and it's not only applied in our process learning in school, but also in our daily life. And the third one is we will talk about cognitive ability. Cognitive ability will serve, we will discuss about memories, thought, and decision making, and its process, intelligence. And the fourth one, we'll talk about motivation and emotion. Why do people do something or try to achieve something? And when an event happening around them, why do he make such an expression? And the fifth one, we will talk about human development. So our process from before we are born to point where we are born, and then we are born from babies, and we are developing to the later stage to adult to elderly, and how it's processed and how its different stages may have different aspect of psychological elements in there. And the sixth one, we will talk about personality. And seven, we will talk about social behavior. As you may already notice that we human are a social being. We can't get separated to others. We are related to another person one way or another. And the eighth and the final one, we'll talk about mental health and mental disorder and why it's become our main scope in psychology. Okay, let us begin to our first topic. The first one, we're talking about behavior and brain. So for these topics, this area of study is focused on the relation of brain and its function on human body. When we are talking about human body, we can't separate the physical aspect and the psychological aspect. Both of them are interrelated one way to another. Like in this diagram, in this picture, we see some part of our brain like amygdala, hypothalamus, pituitary gland, hippocampus, etc., etc. They are have their own responsibility. Like hypothalamus, that they have its responsibility for regulating basic biological needs like hunger, thirst, and control temperature, and also amygdala that involve in emotion and aggression. Yeah. Basically, in this study of human brain, we discover that brain has a heavy role to explain why we behave in certain ways. That's why in your course of biopsychology, you will deep dive the relation between brain and human behavior. Not only that, it's also discussed several common themes in psychology. Mainly, the first one is the nature versus nature on behavior. So there is a discussion whether a behavior or personality um, is highly affected by the first one is nature. Nature means genetics, like your parents' genetic. Okay, because your parents behave this way, that's why you are have this kind of behavior. Like if your parents are easy to be aggressive or easy to be angry, it also explains why you are easy to be angry. Yeah. While the nature counterpart, it discuss on how our environment might shape our behavior. Like if we are um, become easily too angry, maybe it's because we are born in an environment that promotes angry behavior, etc., etc. So the second one, it's also discussing about multiple cause of behavior. When we are talking about behavior, we're also talking about how brain function might affect it. And the third one, it's also serve as a proof that psychology is an empirical knowledge. So when we are studying brain and behavior, we are also talking about how our judgment of the real world that are very subjective. Like when I gave an example about a magician that doing magic trick. Some people like, okay, this magician can vanish things, and the thing is vanished, it goes to nowhere. But in our cognitive process, we know that okay, this guy has its trick, but what is it? How do he do this? And each person have its own belief. They can think that, oh, okay, this magician might have a magical power. And with our rational brain, we think that, okay, this magician has tricks. So that's why we see that it seems like vanishing object, but it's actually don't. It don't vanish. So events are highly subjective to who perceive it. And the second one is also highlight the important sleep to our mind and how drugs affect our consciousness. So this discussion is what shaped the topics of behavior and brain relation. Okay. The second part is learning. So by definition, learning is any relative durable change in behavior or knowledge due to experience. Like I discussed before about the nature versus nurture. And learning is also trying to answer that question whether nature or nurture that has dominancy over your daily behavior. In psychology of learning, there are three base of theories that become its baseline. The first one is classical conditioning that was invented with from Ivan Pavlov, and operant conditioning from Skinner, and observational learning from Albert Bandura. Pavlov, or pronounced Paulo, explained that behavior is might be some kind of response from a stimulus. He used an experiment in animal, like before we give a dog its food, we ring a bell. When he knows that there is food there, he began to salivate. He begins to troll his saliva. And by training it that way for many times over the course of time, when the dogs hear the bell, he will automatically to salivate, learning that when a bell is rang, it means that his food is ready. It's also applied to human, like these experiments in Little Albert, that each time he touched fluffy or furry objects colored white, he would get smacked. That's why, learning that way, he would be feared when he sees something colored white and furry, because his experience tells him that when he touch it, he will get smacked. Okay. What about operant conditioning from Skinner? In Skinner, mm, some behavior uh, is expected to have some reward or aversive stimulus, whether it's presented or removed. So when an animal do something desirable, they will get a reward like food. We usually see this when we try to teach a monkey, yeah, to learn some tricks like ride a bike or jump across some place to another. And then when they can do it successfully, we reward it with a treat, a food. And this was considered as a reward, positive reward. And it's also applied to human. For example, in our human behavior, we can see it in casino or other gambling place or sites. There are see there are a chance for them to win big amount of money. That's why they reinforce to spend more money to play their games, not knowing that the game is rigged. But because they know that, okay, someone has win these games before. They won like 1 million to 2 million rupiah in just playing slots. Okay, I think that I have chance, they say. So when they deposit their money to earn some chip, they play it, they gamble it. Oh, they are losing. But they still receive that I still have a chance to win. There is a reward waiting for me. That's the basis of operant conditioning. And the third one is observational learning. So in observational learning, we not only learn just because there is a stimulus like a bell or there are a reward, but it's also we do it because we observe someone else doing it. Like in the examples in animal, like a dog that learns to mimic monks in prayer, or when a girl looking at his mother applying makeups and she also want to apply some makeups, trying to imitate her. So from this, we know that human behavior is very complex. It can't just explain by what happened inside your brain, but also what happened in your environment. Yeah. Our next topic is that cognitive ability that discuss about memory, language, thought, and intelligence. So, cognition is referred to a broadly mental process or thinking. So, as long as we are talking about how we process thought or how do our mental process an event, it's referred to our cognitive ability. What are their interests in cognitive ability? Something like memories or language, like a process of how do we store our memories inside our mind. There are processes like encoding, where we enter the data or our life through what, Sir Ahmad? Through our eyes, through our ear, through our nose. We input that kind of information that serves to our memories. You read a book, you will remember what's the content of the book. What's the book saying? You watch these videos, you are encoding, you are currently encoding these videos into your mind. And then after you encode, you store it. You save that encode information in memories. You store it in your brain. And then when there is a test, like midterm test or end of semester test, you try to retrieve it, to try to access it back. So that's the process behind the memories. It's one of the cognitive ability try to understand. And also we're talking about language. Like us who are speaking bilingually, like you who are speaking bahasa Indonesia to English to Japanese ngapa, we serve to our memories, I'm sorry, we serve to our language process behind that. It's not just easy, just we just need to listen to someone speaking English or speaking in ngapa accent that we can just understand it. No, we need to learn it. We need to um, practice it. We need to make it common for us to use it. And that's why we can develop a new language itself. And it's really related to our childhood. Why? Because it's easier for us to learn language when we are in our childhood. We have our sort of system where it's easier for us to mimic other person language when we are children. That's why when we are in the age of 3 to 5, they're called the golden age. The golden age refers to the age of which human able to learn in very fast speed. Since language is very complex, it's also stored in our mind, it needs a process, it's become one of them in cognitive psychology. So, and the main interest in cognitive psychology is intelligence. There are a lot of kind of intelligence, a lot of theories that states, oh, okay, there are musical intelligence, there are arithmetic intelligence, there are social intelligence, etc., etc., spiritual psychologence, intelligence. Yeah. How do we know that there are so many kind of intelligence if not from the research in cognitive abilities? Like in verbal intelligence, someone with high verbal intelligence, she or he can speak clear and articulately, is verbally fluent, knowledgeable about a particular field, and reads with high comprehension. While someone with practical intelligence, he or she might not have that kind of skill, but he can seize that all aspect of problem. He can size up situation well. He or she can make a good decision, or even pose a problem in optimal way. You can find a solution for every possible scenarios in his life or in her life. And the other one like social intelligence, that someone who can accept others for what they are, and he has a social conscience, he thinks before speaking and doing, and is sensitive to other people's need and desire. So it takes another level of intelligence to have that skill. Nah, next we're also talking about motivation and emotion. What's motivation? Motivation itself is a goal-directed behavior. What something that drive us to achieve something. That's motivation. When we're learning about motivation and emotion, we know that people behave certain way to achieve something. And what's their achievement? What's they want to achieve? Like for this example, like in biological motive, hunger motive. Oh, we are feeling hungry. That's why we go to eat. We are thirsty. We drink. Sex. Oh, we have the desire to have sex. We have also temperature motive where we need to maintain our body temperature. Oh, this room is so cold. Okay, I need to find a blanket. Oh, this room is so hot. I need to turn on the air conditioner. And so on and so on and so on. So biological motive, it motivates us to fulfill our biological needs. But our needs is not only biological. We also need in social motive. We want to be excellent. We want others to see us as someone powerful We want to have friends. That's the social motive that might affect our behavior. And that's also important to note because our behavior is not just to fulfill our biological needs, but also other motive. So another topic that become interest in psychology is also emotion. What is emotion? It's a subjective conscious experience accompanied by bodily arousal and by characteristic overt expression. So there are three components. The first one is cognitive component, and then physiological component, and the third one the behavioral component. As we already note together that psychology is very subjective. It's different from one person to another. You should take note that. And it explains how an event might incite different emotion to others. For example, when we see the news, there are bombings in Gaza, Palestina, we see that it incite maybe anger to us, to our brother and sister in Palestine. We feel fear. Some might be fear in some people, like they are scared. What if that happened to them too? Or feel surprised when there is no reason for other country to bomb Gaza, Palestine. So why would they need to bomb it? So then what happened next? There are bodily arousal, the psychological component. We felt our body getting harder, our skin changed to red, and we also express it through maybe to our tone of voice, to our facial expression, and there are many ways to express the emotion itself. Okay, next we're talking about the human development. The human development is we are not only talking about the development since we are baby to our become elder, but also it encompasses this stage. This is prenatal stage. In psychology, we discovers that our character or our personality might have been determined since we are still in the womb because our executive function of like brains start developing in the womb. Now maybe when we are still children, we are still a baby inside the womb, we might hear some soothing voice from our mother. We might hear our father speaking through our mother's belly, and it kinda have effect to our characteristic when we are children. So human development not only talking about the brain after we are born, but also before we are born. Okay, when we are born, then what happened? We felt this kind of relation with our father and mother, as they are our main source of love. We have become attached to them, and each person have different attachment with their parental figure. For example, this diagram in the left, we can see that um, if the attachment figure is sufficient, near, attentive, responsive, and approving to us, yes, then what do we feel? we feel security, we feel love, we feel confidence. And then we have the secure attachment. When we have secure attachment, we tend to be playful, less inhibited, and we become curious, like to explore, and easy to socialize to others. What happens if we don't have attachment figure that are maybe near, maybe not near, they are kind of far away, or they are not attentive, not responsive, or not approving? What happened? Then we develop two ways. The first one is fear and anxiety or defensiveness. What happened then? Children tends to be engaged in visual checking. We behave like we kind of look for our parental figure, calling, pleading, moving to its brink, and clinging. We don't want to get separated to our father or mother. That's anxious ambivalent attachment. And what if someone just been abandoned, neglected when they are when they are still children? Then he or she may develop the avoidant attachment that likes to maintain proximity while avoiding close contact. They don't want to be close to other person. We now knows a lot about someone tendencies to behave in certain way just from what? Just from how secure their attachment with their parents or parental figure. Not only that, we also talking about stage of development. The most prominent theory is Erikson stage theory that explain that each aspect of life development of human development, there are stages they are need to be accomplished, they need to be completed. The stage 1 trust versus mistrust, stage 2 autonomy versus shame and doubt, stage 3 initiative versus guilt, and so on and so on. And each stage has its own unique conflict that are we need to answer it. Like now, um, all of you might ask yourself, like in stage 5, identity versus confusion. Who am I? Where am I going? Like you were asking, okay, is psychology is the correct it's correct subject to pursue? Is it what I really like about? Yeah, you might doubt that. But then comes to stage 6, intimacy versus isolation, some where some or many of you will felt like I want to get made to be married or have a relationship. Shall I share my life with another or I just need to live alone? And this Erikson stage, this kind of question is different from each age stage. Okay, next we are talking about personality. In this topic of psychology, personality refers to individual unique set of consistent behavioral traits. Personality traits is a durable disposition to behave in a particular way in a variety of situations. Adjectives such as honest, dependable, moody, impulsive, suspicious, anxious, excitable, domineering, and friendly describe disposition that represent the personality traits. The most common theory to describe someone's personality is the Big Five personality. There are five factors: the neuroticism factor, extraversion factor, openness to experience, agreeableness, and conscientiousness. So each factor itself has its own characteristic. Okay. How do you say someone has a neuroticism personality? Okay, we would say that in most situations, he would feel worried instead of calm. He or she would feel insecure. He or she would like to self-pitying. Okay, since he or she do that in most of the event, okay, that's why he or she might have neuroticism personality, or the most popular one like extrovert or introvert. Yeah. It's a tendency for individual to behave a certain way. The extrovert person, they enjoy to socialize with other, while the counterparts, they don't like to socialize to others, like to keep his or her activity by himself or herself. That's why this trait. But personality is not only categorize people in certain way. We also talking about in perspective of psychoanalysis. In psychoanalysis, our body, our mind, is consist of three main aspects: the id, the ego, and the superego. The id is the primitive instinct component of personality that operates according to the pleasure principle. What does it mean is that the id, because it's so primitive, you just want to achieve what something considered as pleasure. Eating is pleasurable, right? Eating good food, drinking some iced tea in hot weather. That's the it talking. And then this ego. The ego is the aspect that turn this need from it to get to be operated, whether it was executed or not. It's a decision making component of the personality. And then the last one, the superego. The superego is the moral component. Okay, we are for example, like we have this deed of this personality, like when we are feel hungry, we want to eat with other person, for example, with our friends. And then the ego said, okay, let's do it. Okay, let's contact our friend and ask him to eat. But then comes the superego. The superego is the fact that it's still happening in class. We are still inside the class. We're still learning. So okay, let's delay it. Okay, we want to eat with friends, but delay it. Wait until the class is finished. And that's process itself is in explain how personality operates in psychoanalysis. Now comes to the social behavior. In social behavior, there are distinct topics called social psychology, the branch of psychology that concern with the way individuals thought, feel, and behave that are influenced by other. We're talking about the influence of other people to our behavior. So basically, we are saying that we see the individuals in societal context. What are the main themes in social behavior? There are attribution, how we attribute some event, whether it's because of our reason or other reason, other person reason, whether it was caused by us or whether it's caused by other attributions. And that's attribution. And then liking, love, and relationship, like what I discussed before in the topic before this. In human development, we are talking about attachment. In social psychology, when we are talking about social behavior, we also talking about attachment. There are secure, avoidant, and anxious or ambivalent. So it also kind of explain how someone might develop their romantic relationship or friendly relationship with others. For example, if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend and you like to get around together, you feel safe around him or her, and you want to spend the rest of life with him or her, that might be a kind of secure attachment. But if you want to be um, close with someone, and but you are worried that your partner might not love you, or he or she might don't want to be with you, it's considered as anxious or ambivalent attachment. Or the avoidant one, where you have no interest maybe to have a relationship, close relationship with others. You are difficult to allow yourself to depend to others and feel nervous when someone gets close to you, know you better. You want to go away from him or her. That's avoidant attachment. That's also the topics in social psychology. And then we are also talking about attitudes and conformity and obedience. Attitude is like this picture right here where you see that there is a black person and white person in the monitors. Yeah. We might sometimes associate a black or someone with dark skin color with a bad personality. Or when we see someone with bright skin color, we consider as have a good personality or good behavior. That comes from attitude, becomes prejudice, become stereotypes, becomes discrimination, and there are many and deep discussion on that in social psychology. Now, the last topic is mental health and disorders. As you may progress in your study in psychology, you also notice that health is not only physical aspect but also on mental aspect. When we are talking about um, mental health and mental disorder, we will know that in each every event of our life, there is something called stress. Stress is based on our appraisal of an event. So this first image, we can see this together. When we appraise an event as something that irrelevant or harmless, we incite no stress. But when we see that, okay, it's relevant, it might threatening to my health, then we do our second appraisal. Okay, this is threatening to me. Okay, maybe I just keep breathing, relaxing myself. We cope it, and then if it's complete, if it's successful, it becomes no stress. But if it's inadequate, it will become stress. So when this kind of stress is stacking up in your mind, in your body, what might happen next is become a disorder. You might behave, um, you might behave like incompetent. You can't even socialize to others. You can't even talk to other people. Or in an extreme disorders like schizophrenia, you might hallucinate, seeing things, hear things, and there are many kind of categories in mental disorders. So in this broad study, it focus on healthy behavior, mental disorder, and it's the relation of culture and pathology. The first one about healthy behavior. Studying on healthy behavior, um, it relates on how we develop a good behavior that supports our physical body health and our mental health, like this picture in the right. We eat fruits, we exercise every day, just taking walk each every morning. It would relieve our stress. It would relieve our body. We would have optimal body condition to go through our day. Mental disorder, like I discussed before, about how stress might stack up. And the third one is the interesting one, is that culture and pathology, the relation between both aspects. You might notice that nowadays, if we see or hear someone claim that he is a prophet of God, he claims that he can raise a dead people, he can bring a miracle, we might consider him have mental health disorder. We might call him schizophrenic. But back in the days, back in maybe 1,000 years ago, people might still believe it. Okay, this guy claimed that he can bring a miracle. So let's do what he said. So from this example, we know that how culture, how time, historical time might affect someone perspective on pathological person, person with pathological disorder. So it's very related whether someone will get a proper treatment or not. It's very direct. It have a direct relation with culture. So this topic is very important for all of us to learn in psychology. So since there are many topics that are encompasses within this psychology body of knowledge of psychology itself, you might now consider to think that, what should I study from this point and beyond? What is your interest? What you want to study more? Because psychology have a variety of topics and scopes. So that's the end to our class today. I hope you enjoy it from the beginning to the end. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.